Have you ever noticed how the harder you work, the less you seem to get ahead? It feels counterintuitive, even unfair, but it's a common experience. Look around you. How many people do you know who've toiled for years, burning the candle at both ends, only to remain financially strapped? Renting, driving used cars, constantly struggling to make ends meet, all while believing that hard work is the only path to success? Let me tell you, that's a myth, a massive misconception. Think about how deeply ingrained that hard work equals success mantra is. We're told from childhood that relentless effort, unwavering dedication, sweat equity, these are the keys to the kingdom. Someday. Now look around again. How many people are grinding it out, day in and day out, waking before dawn, enduring packed commutes, slogging through unfulfilling jobs, only to come home exhausted and still barely scraping by? They've followed the rules: hard work, honesty, punctuality, responsibility, and yet they're barely making ends meet, if they're even doing that. And the worst part, they often believe their lack of success is due to not working hard enough. The solution, they think, is to push even harder, but that's dead wrong. I learned this the hard way. I bought into the narrative too. I took any job I could get: factories, gas stations, changing oil, greasing parts, mopping floors. I was perpetually exhausted and broke, aimless, hopeless, just fatigue and disappointment. I believed this was the only way, because that's what I'd been taught. Then, someone handed me a book, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. One sentence hit me like a ton of bricks. If you believe that hard work and honesty alone will bring you wealth, get rid of that idea. It isn't true. It felt like heresy. Hard work doesn't guarantee riches. Was all my effort for nothing? I felt anger, denial, disbelief. But deep down, it resonated, because I was living proof that hard work wasn't enough. The world is overflowing with hard-working, under-resourced people, good, honest, diligent individuals barely surviving. Meanwhile, others seem to achieve more with less effort. Are they just lucky, privileged, or did they uncover something they don't teach in school? I did, and it's this. It's not hard work that creates wealth, it's work aligned with the right principles, a powerful vision, the frequency you emit, and a deep-seated belief in your own deservingness. When I started applying these principles, everything changed. From a guy with no education, no plan, and no money, I generated over $100,000 in my first venture. It wasn't about working harder, it was about thinking differently. I shifted my focus from effort to purpose. Interestingly, people who work themselves ragged usually don't have time for reflection. They're so consumed by the daily grind, they forget to evaluate whether what they're doing even makes sense. They're too busy being productive to be strategic. When was the last time you reflected on whether you're investing your energy wisely? Are you exhausting yourself for something that truly leads you where you want to go, or just surviving another day? Most people fear stopping, thinking that if they pause, they'll sink. But if you continue down the wrong path, you'll sink anyway, only more tired. Wealth isn't a direct result of physical exertion. It's a reflection of your consciousness, your perception of the world, your self-perception, and your response to universal laws. Once you understand this, you realize there's a shortcut, not a trick or luck, just a path rarely revealed. But now you know. Will you continue running like a hamster on a wheel, or will you stop, reflect, and choose a different path? Because it exists. It starts with a simple decision. Stop believing the lie of blind effort and start living with clarity, purpose, and results. I spent years doing things I didn't enjoy, waking up unmotivated, unenthusiastic, weighed down by the feeling of wasting my time. I'd grown accustomed to a monotonous existence, devoid of color. Ironically, money still seemed to slip through my fingers. I wasn't happy, and I wasn't rich. Then, after studying success, wealth, and universal laws, I realized something profoundly simple and powerful that changed everything. Nobody thrives doing what they hate. You might make some money, but you won't keep it. The emotional toll is too high. Fatigue, stress, emptiness. It erodes you until you're merely surviving. That's when I understood. The real secret is to love what you do. Simple, right? But look at your life. Do you truly love what you do every day? Do you feel enthusiasm, passion, that spark in your eyes when you wake up? Or are you just surviving, counting down the days until your next break? Most people don't love their jobs. They're stuck in jobs they hate, surrounded by energy-draining people, waiting for a paycheck that barely covers their expenses. Yet they believe they have no other choice. They think loving what you do is a privilege for a select few. It's not. And I'll show you why. When you're aligned with what you love, everything shifts. Your energy levels soar, ideas flow more freely, opportunities appear almost magically because you're vibrating at a frequency of enthusiasm, creativity, and passion. The universe responds. Notice how some people seem naturally successful. They don't seem to work that hard, yet they thrive. Taylor Swift, for instance, was the world's highest-paid entertainer. She didn't get there by toiling away in a factory. She got there because she does what she loves. When you do what you love, effort becomes effortless. You enter a flow state. You become magnetic. You attract the right people, the right ideas, the right opportunities. I experienced this firsthand. When I started teaching what I'd learned, something inside me ignited. It was as if every cell in my body said, "This is it." I no longer had to force myself. I didn't need to drag myself out of bed or jolt myself awake with coffee. I had a reason to get up. When you find that, time shifts. Hours fly by, and at the end of the day, even if you're tired, you're happy. And the irony? The more I did what I loved, the more money I made. That's why I say, without hesitation, when you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. But here's the kicker. Bob, what if I don't know what I love? The answer is simple. You need to stop and reflect. You won't find the answer in job ads or the expectations of others. The answer lies in remembering what makes you feel alive. What would you do for free, just for the sheer joy of it? What would you do even if nobody paid you? What excites, challenges, and inspires you? That's the path. That's the key. You might be thinking, but I have bills to pay, kids, responsibilities. I know I did too. I'm not saying quit everything tomorrow, but you can start today. Yes, today. Dedicate an hour a day to investing in something you love. Study, plan, experiment. Turn your passion into a side project and gradually transition. The mistake people make is thinking they need to abandon everything at once. No, you just need to start with what you have, where you are, and with what you love. And one more thing. Doing what you love doesn't mean there won't be challenges. It means the challenges will be purposeful. Even when it's hard, it will be worth it because you'll be on the right path, nourishing your soul. And the most powerful aspect of all, when you start doing what you love, you become an example. You inspire others. Your children admire you more. Your friends see you in a new light. You become a beacon in a world where many are dimmed. So I ask you sincerely, are you living or just completing tasks until life ends? You deserve more. You were born with a purpose, and that purpose begins with love. It begins with doing what you love. Money is one of the most misunderstood things in the world. People treat it like a mystery, a taboo, something almost unattainable, or worse, an enemy. But let me tell you something simple that might unlock your mind right now. Money is just an idea. That thing you call money, that piece of paper, that number in your bank statement is nothing more than a symbolic representation of value and ideas. Ideas follow laws, mental laws. universal laws. And there's one of these laws that almost nobody knows. Money goes where it's invited and stays where it's well treated. Have you heard that before? Maybe not. But if you look closely at your own life, you'll see it confirmed every day. Think with me. When was the last time you felt truly comfortable handling money? Have you felt guilty for earning more than others? Have you caught yourself thinking money isn't everything or money is dirty? Have you looked at your bank account and felt fear, anxiety, shame? These feelings are common, and that's why money runs away, because without realizing it, you're telling the universe, this causes me suffering, this isolates me, this scares me. And the universe responds, then let's remove it from your life. It seems simple, and it is. But it's not easy because we've been programmed from a young age to think that money is hard to come by, scarce, only for those born into wealth. Every time you complain about a bill, every time you say everything's so expensive, every time you envy those who have more, you're pushing money away from your frequency. You're saying it's not welcome, that it's the villain. But the truth is, money is neither good nor bad. It simply amplifies who you already are. If you're generous, you'll have more resources to help. If you're creative, you'll have more freedom to create. If you're careful, you'll have more opportunities to care for your loved ones. But if you reject money, out of fear, guilt, or limiting beliefs, it will move away. No matter how hard you work, it won't stay. I've seen this happen countless times. People who win the lottery, for example, and lose everything within a few years. Why? Because the money came in, but their minds weren't capable of sustaining it. The frequency wasn't compatible, and it left. Now look at the other side. People who came from nothing, started with little, and now live in abundance. These people treated money differently. They respected it, studied it, cared for it. They understood that money needs direction, structure, recognition. They created space for it to reside. And here's something important. Many people ask, but how do I change this in practice, Bob? The answer begins with awareness. Start by observing how you talk about money, how you react when you see someone wealthy, how you feel when you receive, and even when you spend, because all of this reveals your relationship with it. After that, start creating new patterns. For example, instead of saying, I can't afford this, say, how can I afford this? Do you see the difference? One phrase closes the door, the other opens the mind. It seems small, but in the eyes of the universe, it's gigantic. Here's a simple yet powerful challenge. For the next 7 days, don't say anything negative about money. Nothing, not even jokingly, not out of habit, not complaining about gas or groceries. Nothing. Instead, repeat several times a day with conviction. Money flows to me from unexpected sources, constantly and increasingly. And observe. Because when you change on the inside, the world around you begins to reorganize to reflect that new reality. Oh, and there's more. Studies in positive psychology show that people with a healthy emotional relationship with money tend to have less anxiety, more self-esteem, and higher levels of overall well-being. It's not just about having more, it's about living better, sleeping more soundly, feeling more secure, having freedom of choice. So now tell me, are you treating money like an unwelcome visitor or an honored guest? Does it arrive and you close the door? Or do you receive it with gratitude, open space, offer shelter? Money goes where it's loved, and when it feels good, it stays. I'll never forget the day I looked at my life and felt such a deep emptiness. It felt like I was merely existing, not living. I was struggling, not just financially, but emotionally, spiritually. Nothing made sense. I had no purpose, no direction. And the most painful part was knowing deep down that this wasn't what I was born to be, that life couldn't just be this. But I didn't know where to start. For a long time, I lived like most people, doing whatever came my way. I dropped out of school, took any job that paid enough to survive. Factories, gas stations, maintenance work, hauling weight, getting my hands dirty, exhausting myself, and still broke. I told myself I was doing what I could. But deep down, I felt ashamed. I felt like I was wasting something much greater within me. I just didn't know how to access it. Then, like a breath from the universe, someone placed a book in my hand, Think and Grow Rich. At the time, I confess, I didn't give it much credit. I wasn't a reader, I lacked discipline, and I didn't believe much in those things, but I was desperate enough to try anything. And that book wasn't just a book, it was a mirror. With each page, I saw myself. I saw my mistakes, my patterns, my distorted mentality, and most importantly, I saw the possibility of change. It was like turning on a light in a dark room. I understood that what kept me trapped wasn't a lack of opportunity, a lack of education, or an unfair world. It was my mind, my self-image. I saw myself as someone limited, broken, worthless, and that's exactly what the world reflected back to me. That's when everything started to change. I quit my job as a firefighter, even without any guarantees. I had no degree, no money, no connections, but I had a new vision. And with that vision, I started a cleaning business, a simple business, modest, but with a huge difference. Now I was aligned with a purpose. I believed in myself. I had a plan. I was applying principles, and in the first year, I grossed over $100,000, 10 times more than I ever imagined possible. What was that? Proof that transformation begins within. That external reality is merely a reflection of our internal structure, that when you change your mind, the world has no choice but to adapt. But here's the detail no one tells you. This turnaround doesn't happen from the outside in. It's not earning more that solves your life, because there are people earning a lot and feeling miserable. The real turnaround comes when you change your relationship with who you are, when you start to see yourself as someone deserving, when you say, enough, I refuse to live small anymore. And that decision, that simple decision, can change absolutely everything. I've seen it happen to me. I've seen it happen to hundreds of people who had nothing, absolutely nothing but the will to change, and who created extraordinary lives. And I've also seen the opposite, brilliant, talented people who never got anywhere because they were trapped by beliefs, fears, and a limited mental image of themselves. And that hurts. It hurts to see so much potential wasted. That's why I tell you now, with all my strength, it doesn't matter where you are today. You may be in debt, lost, frustrated, tired. You may not know how you'll pay next month's bills. You may have failed so many times that you think you don't deserve to try anymore. But none of that defines you. What defines you is what you decide to do from now on. The key to all of this lies in your decision to grow, to develop, to look in the mirror and say, I am not my failures. I am what I choose to be from now on. And look, science has already proven this. Studies of neuroplasticity show that the brain is capable of remodeling itself throughout life, that our thoughts create new neural pathways, that, with focus and repetition, we can literally rebuild ourselves. In other words, you can change at any age, in any situation. So listen carefully now. You don't need more luck. You don't need someone to save you. What you need is to believe that you already have enough within you to turn the game around. And when you do that, when you truly change, the whole world changes with you. Have you noticed how most people live reacting to life rather than creating their own lives? They wake up every day without a clear plan, just going with the flow. They wait for their paycheck at the end of the month, for the bills that will arrive, for the weekend, for vacation, always waiting for something. They live on autopilot. And the saddest part is that they don't even realize they're trapped. They believe this is the only way to live. But let me tell you something I learned in the most transformative way possible. Your external reality will never change until you take control internally, until you become the creator, not the victim. There's a huge difference between living reactively and living proactively. When you live reactively, you respond to the world. When you live proactively, you build the world around you. And the turning point begins with a decision. You choose to stop reacting and start designing your life. I discovered this when I realized that everything I had up to that point was a result of how I thought and felt. I attracted situations that reflected my internal confusion. My mental chaos turned into financial chaos. My fear manifested as limitations. And as long as I didn't consciously decide what I wanted, the universe gave me anything, because I didn't even know what I was asking for. Have you ever caught yourself saying things like, "Let's see what happens. That's just how life is. I have no choice"? These are the phrases of someone who has given up creating, who has handed over the wheel of their own life to chance. But the truth is, you always have a choice. Even if you can't control what happens, you can control how you think, how you feel, how you react. And that changes everything. It changes your frequency. Shift your perspective. Shift your reality. It's not what life throws at you, but how you catch it that truly matters. I turned my life around by embracing this simple truth. I started journaling my aspirations daily, vividly visualizing my ideal future and repeating positive affirmations, feeling the emotions as if they were already real. Suddenly, my world transformed. Opportunities materialized out of thin air. The right people showed up, and obstacles seemed to vanish. But it all started within. You might think, "This sounds too good to be true, Bob," but it's not. Neuroscience backs this up. Your brain can't distinguish between intense imagination and actual experience. Powerful visualization focuses your mind, acting like a filter to attract information, confirming your inner vision. It's the reticular activating system in action. That's why, when you want a red car, suddenly you see them everywhere. You've tuned your mind. This means you can program your brain to attract abundance, solutions, and opportunities, but it all hinges on ditching passivity and taking the reins. I challenge you, grab a notebook right now and write down, with crystal clarity, exactly how you want your life to look in 1 year. Not what you think is possible, but what you deeply desire. Detail everything, feel it as if it's already real. Read it aloud every day for 30 days, with feeling, and watch what happens. By transforming your inner vision, you'll inevitably reshape your outer reality. You're not here just to survive, you're here to create your life. And that journey begins the moment you overcome inertia. The time is now. The core principle is deceptively simple, yet profoundly powerful. Your desired life isn't built through blind effort, but through alignment with your inner self. Change your mindset, your energy, your inner picture, and the external world will respond. It's an undeniable law. If this resonated with you, keep going. My next video will take you further, expanding your consciousness, making you a little bit better each day. Those small daily improvements, they change everything. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you in the next one. Let's continue this journey together.